The first light of dawn broke through the thick forest, casting soft golden streaks on the cave walls. The tiny alien girl peeked outside, her glowing eyes searching for any sign of danger. The human was already awake, sharpening a small blade, his movements careful, precise, as if the forest itself was watching. He looked up and smiled gently. "It's safe to come out now," he said. She stepped forward slowly, her small claws brushing the dirt. She still trembled, but less than before. She trusted him more than anyone she had ever known. As they moved through the forest, the sounds of the night faded. The wind was calmer, and the birds began to sing. It was a new world for her, one that was not filled with fear. Suddenly, they heard the intruders again, their rough voices echoing from the trees. The girl froze, but the human held her hand firmly. "We face them together," he whispered. The intruders stepped into a clearing, expecting to find an easy prey. But the human stood tall, blocking the path, his eyes cold, ready to defend. The alien girl hid behind him, her small body shaking. "You won't take her," the human said, his voice strong, unwavering. The intruders laughed, but their eyes showed doubt. They had never met a human who moved with such calm power. One of them lunged forward, but the human was faster. He dodged, grabbed a branch, and knocked the intruder to the ground. The others hesitated, unsure of what to do next. The girl watched, amazed and relieved. She realized humans could be kind and brave at the same time. Not all humans were monsters. Some fought for what was right. The intruders finally ran, leaving the forest behind. Their hoods gone, their pride broken. The girl let out a small sigh, relief washing over her like a warm wave. The human turned to her, smiling softly. "It's over for now. You are safe." He offered his hand, and she took it. But without hesitation, her small fingers gripping his firmly, they walked together through the forest. The trees seemed less dark now. The sun warmed her skin, and for the first time she felt like she belonged. "Why did you help me?" she asked quietly, looking up at him. He knelt down so his eyes met hers. "Because you deserved a chance. You deserved to live without fear." His voice was gentle, full of truth. She felt tears in her eyes, not from fear, but from gratitude. "I thought humans were monsters, but you are different," she whispered. He smiled. "Not all humans are the same, just like not all aliens are the same. We can choose who we want to be." She nodded, her heart light for the first time. Then, "I trust you," she said, her small hand pressing against his. The human looked at her with pride and care. "Good, then we move forward together." They stepped out of the forest, the sun rising high above. The tiny alien girl finally felt freedom. She was no longer hiding, no longer afraid. The bond between them had grown unbreakable. A human and an alien, strangers at first, now friends who shared trust and courage. The forest behind them was quiet, but the future ahead was bright. The girl looked up at the human and smiled, her tiny heart full of hope and happiness. For the first time she believed in humanity, and she knew she would never forget the human who saved her. The night was darker than usual. The wind whistled through the broken trees, and the fire flickered weakly. The tiny alien girl shivered, but this time she did not hide under the blanket. She stayed close to the human, her glowing eyes scanning the shadows. Suddenly, a noise came from outside, a sharp crack. The human froze, listening carefully. "Stay behind me," he whispered, his voice low but firm. She nodded, gripping the blanket tighter, her small claws trembling. Figures moved in the darkness, rough and large. Humans, or something like them, stepped quietly through the forest, their faces hidden under hoods, but their weapons gleamed faintly under the weak moonlight. The tiny alien girl's heart raced. She wanted to run, but the human's hand on her shoulder stopped her. He was calm, his eyes alert. "They won't see us if we stay still," he said. They crouched behind a large fallen tree, trying to be invisible. The human whispered instructions. "When I say go, follow my lead. Don't scream. Don't make a sound." The creatures passed by, slow and careful, sniffing the air. The girl could feel their eyes, heavy and searching. It felt like the stories her people told, humans devouring aliens. She wanted to cry, but she stayed quiet. Suddenly, one of the intruders stopped and looked straight at them. The girl froze, her small chest pounding. The human slowly moved in front of her, blocking her from view. His hand rested on the hilt of a hidden weapon, ready to strike. The intruder sniffed again, stepping closer. The girl could feel his breath in the cold night. Then, a loud crash echoed as the human pushed a small branch into the path of the intruder, making a loud noise to distract them. The others hissed and moved toward the sound, giving the human and the girl a chance to run. They dashed through the forest, the girl clutching his hand tightly, her small legs tries. And to keep up with his long strides, they reached a narrow cave, hidden behind thick vines. The human pulled her inside and blocked the entrance with a large rock. The girl huddled behind him, trembling. "Are they gone?" she whispered. He shook his head slightly. "For now, yes, but they will come back. They always come back when they want something." His eyes were serious, his jaw tight. She looked at him, scared. They want to eat us?" she asked, her voice small and shaky. He placed a hand on her tiny head. "No, not all humans are like them, but some are cruel. They think fear gives them power." The girl's glowing eyes softened. "Then, why do you help me?" He knelt down, looking her straight in the eyes. "Because not all humans are monsters, and I don't want you to be hurt." She studied his face, trying to understand. Then she nodded, a small trust forming even stronger. Her fear did not vanish, but it was less heavy now. Outside, the wind howled and the shadows moved, but inside the cave, a small light of hope remained. She knew she was safe, at least for tonight, with him. The days that followed were quiet. The tiny alien girl no longer hid behind crates or shadows. Instead, she sat near the fire, watching the human work with his strange tools. She still kept her blanket wrapped around her shoulders, but her glowing eyes no longer looked at him with only fear. One morning, he cooked food again, simple bread and roasted meat. He placed a portion near her as always. This time, she did not hesitate. She crawled forward, picked it up, and whispered, "Thank you." The human smiled faintly. "You're welcome," he said. His voice was calm, not heavy like thunder anymore. For the first time, she noticed that his eyes were not cruel. They looked tired, yes, but also gentle. Later, he showed her how to use one of his tools, a small light that could cut through wood. At first, she was afraid to touch it, thinking it would burn her, but when he guided her hand carefully, she gasped as the tool sparked with controlled light. Her lips curled into a small laugh, the sound surprising even herself. The human chuckled. "See? Not all human things are dangerous," he said. That night, she took something from her small pouch, a tiny charm made of bone and string. Her people used it to mark someone as a protector. With shy hands, she held it out to him. "This," she whispered, "is for those who guard others. It means protector." The man stared at the charm for a long moment, then carefully took it. He tied it to his wrist and nodded. "Then I'll wear it proudly," he said. His voice was firm, but there was a softness in his eyes that made her chest feel warm. From that day, she began to trust him more. She sat beside him when he repaired broken machines. She asked questions in her small voice, and he answered with patience. She followed him when he checked the traps in the forest, always staying close to his side. One evening, when the wind howled outside, "Son," he whispered to him, "you are not like the humans in the stories." Her voice trembled, but was steady enough to carry truth. He looked at her quietly, then gave a short nod. "And you are not like the aliens I was told about," he replied. "They said your kind were dangerous, but you are just a child who needed help." Her glowing eyes widened. "They tell stories about us too?" He sighed, poking the fire with a stick. "Yes, bad stories, ugly stories. But meeting you showed me something different." She stared at the fire, her small claws gripping the blanket. "Maybe stories make monsters of everyone," she said softly. The man gave a faint smile. "Maybe," he agreed. For the first time, she leaned against him, her tiny frame resting on his arm. He did not move, did not push her away. He simply sat there, letting her rest. She closed her eyes, her fear slowly melting away. The bond between them grew with each passing day. He was still human, she was still alien. But in that small shelter, they began to share something stronger than fear, trust. The human's shelter was quiet again. The firelight flickered on the walls, casting long shadows. The tiny alien girl sat wrapped in her blanket, her glowing eyes fixed on the man's wounded arm. He had bandaged it himself, his movements steady even though she saw the pain in his face. She hugged her knees close, guilt heavy in her chest. Her small voice broke the silence. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you save me when I ran away, when I didn't listen?" The man looked at her, his face calm but serious. "Because I told you," he said, "I won't let anything happen to you." His voice was firm, but not unkind. The girl lowered her head. Her claws tugged at the blanket nervously. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You are human. Humans are monsters." The words slipped out of her mouth like poison, but she could not hold it back. The man didn't get angry. He only raised his brow. "Monsters?" he asked quietly. "That's what you think of us?" Her eyes shimmered as she nodded. "That's what we were told since we were small," she said. Her voice shook. "Humans come with fire. Humans eat the weak. Humans destroy villages. My people said if a child misbehaves, humans will come in the night to take them." She hugged herself tighter, trembling as old fears rose again. The man leaned back against the wall, listening. His gaze was thoughtful. "So your people taught you to fear us," he said. "Stories to make you hate us before you even met one." She looked up at him, her tears threatening to fall. "But the stories were true," she insisted. "I saw it. When I was little, I saw the sky burn, ships falling, homes destroyed. I saw humans take food from our lands and give nothing back. I saw them laugh while my people starved." Her voice cracked and tears spilled freely. "Tell me, how is that not a monster?" The human was silent for a long time. His face was unreadable. The crackle of the fire filled the space between them. At last, he rolled up his sleeve, showing his arm covered in scars, some old and faded, some fresh and angry red. "You're not wrong," he said slowly. "Humans have done terrible things. Some humans are cruel, some destroy, some take. I won't deny that." His voice was heavy, almost sorrowful. "But not all of us." He tapped one of the scars with his finger. "This one," he said. "I got protecting a village from raiders." He pointed to another. "This one was when I stood against my own people because they wanted to burn fields that didn't belong to them." His eyes met hers, steady and sharp. "If all humans were monsters, I would not be sitting here now." The alien girl stared at him, her small body trembling, her mind spun with his words. The stories never spoke of humans who fought for the weak, never of humans who bled for others. Her claws dug into the blanket as she whispered, "Then, the stories were not the whole truth." He gave a small nod. "Stories are dangerous," he said. "They can blind you, make you believe something forever, even if it's only half true." He leaned closer, his voice firm. "But you've seen me now. You've seen what I do. Do I look like the monster from your stories?" Her eyes met his, glowing and wet with tears. She shook her head slowly, her voice breaking. "No, you don't." The human leaned back, a faint smile touching his lips. "Then maybe it's time you write your own story about humans," he said. The tiny alien girl pressed her face into the blanket, her heart torn between fear and something new. "Trust," she whispered so softly he almost didn't hear. "Maybe you are not a monster. Maybe you are my protector." The tiny alien girl could not sleep. The human's words repeated in her mind. "She's under my protection." His voice had been strong, but she could not understand it. Why would a human defend her? Why would he fight his own kind just to keep her safe? Still, the fear inside her was heavy. The rough humans who came earlier would return, she was sure of it. They would come with more men, and when that happened, he would not be able to stop them. And if he could not stop them, she would be taken. Her glowing eyes shifted toward the door of the shelter. The night outside was dark, the sound of distant creatures echoing like hungry ghosts. Her small hands shook, but she whispered to herself, "Better to face the forest than wait here to be taken." Quietly, she slipped the blanket off her shoulders and crept to the door. The human was asleep by the dying fire, his weapon resting nearby. His face looked calm, not like a monster, but she forced herself to look away. If she stayed, she believed her end would come. The door opened with a faint creak. She froze, watching him, but he did not wake. Her heart raced, and she darted into the night, The forest swallowed her instantly. Shadows twisted between the trees. The air was cold and wet. She wrapped her arms around herself and hurried forward, her small feet crunching against leaves. Each step was heavy with fear. At first, the forest was silent. Then came the growls, low and dangerous. Her glowing eyes darted around. She could see shapes moving in the dark, predators circling, drawn to her scent. She tried to run, but the ground was rough. Her foot caught on a root and she fell hard. Her knees scraped against sharp stones. Pain shot through her body. She gasped and crawled forward, but the growls grew closer. From the darkness, a pair of glowing animal eyes appeared, followed by another and another. The predator's step. It into view, long claws, sharp teeth, their snarls filling the night. The girl screamed, her small voice echoing through the forest. Just as one beast leapt, a gunshot cracked the air. The animal fell back with a roar of pain. More shots followed, driving the pack away. She turned her head and saw him, the human, charging through the trees, his face fierce, his weapon blazing fire. He reached her side in seconds, grabbing her arm and pulling her up. "What were you thinking?" he shouted. His voice was full of anger, but also fear. His arms wrapped around her as another predator lunged. He fired again, blood spraying the ground. One claw swiped close, cutting across his arm. He grunted in pain but did not let go of her. With one final shot, the predator scattered back into the dark, leaving silence behind. The girl clung to him, her tiny body shaking. Tears streamed down her face. "Why? Why did you save me?" she sobbed. "I ran away. I left you." He knelt down, his face pale from the wound on his arm, but his eyes steady. "Because you don't deserve to die out here," he said. His voice was firm. "Because even if you don't trust me yet, I promised myself I would keep you safe." Her heart pounded. His words broke something inside her. She had never been worth saving before, yet here was a human, bleeding and tired, who still carried her in his arms as he stood again. The girl buried her face in his chest, whispering through her tears, Maybe humans are not monsters after all." The tiny alien girl had just begun to feel the strange safety of the human's shelter. The fire inside the metal room was warm, and the hum of the glowing screens gave her a sense of protection. But her peace did not last long. It began with heavy footsteps outside, not like the soft movements of animals. These were sharp and strong, boots crushing the soil. The girl froze instantly, her glowing eyes wide with fear. She whispered in panic, "More humans." Her claws dug into the blanket as her body shook. The man stood up, his face hardening. He grabbed a long metal weapon from the wall and walked to the door. He didn't open it right away. Instead, he listened, his jaw tight. Then came the voices, rough and loud. "Open up," one of them shouted. "We know you're in there." Another voice laughed. "Heard you caught something, a little alien." The sound made her heart drop. She crawled back into the shadows, pressing herself against the cold wall. The human looked back at her, his eyes firm. "Stay quiet," he whispered. Then he opened the door. 3 men stepped in, humans like him but rougher. Their faces carried sharp grins. Their eyes searched the room until they fell on her, hiding behind the crates. One of them burst out laughing. Well, look at that," he sneered. "The little alien thought these things were just pests." Another man leaned closer, his smirk cruel. "What do you plan to do with her? Sell her? Or maybe roast her?" His words cut into her like knives. Her chest heaved as she trembled. She cried out, "Please don't devour me." The men laughed even louder, mocking her fear. The leader pointed at her. "Hand her over. She's worth something out there. At least we won't waste time feeding her like you do." The man who had found her stepped between them and the girl, his broad back blocking their view of her. His voice was calm but firm. "She's under my protection." The laughter stopped, replaced by silence. The leader's grin turned sharp. "Protection?" He spat. "It's a creature, not a person." He stepped closer, lowering his voice into a growl. "Move aside." But the man did not move. His stance grew solid, his weapon held steady. "She stays," he said. His tone was final. The girl's glowing eyes filled with confusion. She had expected him to betray her, to give her away like everyone else did, but instead, he stood in front of her, like a wall. His presence both terrified and comforted her. The other men sneered. "So that's how it is? You're wasting food and water on a worthless thing." One spat on the ground. "Don't say we didn't warn you." They backed out slowly, their eyes still filled with anger. Before leaving, the leader hissed, "You'll regret this. You can't protect her forever." Then the door slammed shut behind them, leaving only the sound of her fast breathing. The girl stayed frozen, hugging the blanket tightly. Her voice came out as a weak whisper. "Why? Why did you do that?" The man turned to her, lowering his weapon. His expression softened. "Because you needed someone to stand for you," he said. "And right now, that someone is me." Her heart raced. She stared at him with tears in her eyes. For the first time, she saw a human, not as a monster, but as a shield. Her tiny hands clutched the blanket as she whispered, "You are strange, but maybe not a monster." The human gave a faint smile. "That's a start," he said. Then he sat by the fire again, as if nothing had happened. But for the tiny alien girl, everything had changed. The night had passed slowly, and when the alien girl woke again, she found herself still wrapped in the blanket. The fire had burned low, but the human was awake, packing his things with steady hands. He noticed her watching and gave a nod. "Time to move," he said. Her body tensed. Fear returned quickly. "Move." "Where?" she asked. Her voice shook. She thought maybe he was finally taking her to other humans, the ones who would eat her. He shook his head. "To my shelter," he said simply. "It's safer than this place." He pointed to the broken cargo yard around them. Its shadows stretched long and dangerous, creatures already prowling the edges. Her small body shivered at the sounds. The girl hugged herself, torn between fear of following him and fear of being left behind. She whispered, "If I go, will I come back alive?" The human met her gaze firmly. "Yes," he said. "If you stay here, you won't." Her heart raced, but her feet moved on their own. She followed him, keeping a wide distance, always watching his back. The forest beyond the yard was dark, filled with howls and rustling leaves. Every noise made her jump, but the man walked calmly, as if nothing could touch him. After some time, they reached a small clearing. At its center stood a strange shelter made from metal sheets, wood, and glowing panels that hummed with energy. To her alien eyes, it looked both frightening and magical. He opened the door and stepped inside. She hesitated at the edge, biting her lip. What if this was the monster's den? What if this was the trap all along? The human turned, his voice softer now. "You can stay out there if you want," he said, "but predators come out at night." His words echoed against the trees. A low growl rumbled nearby. Her glowing eyes widened in terror. With a small cry, she rushed forward and slipped inside the shelter, her tiny frame shaking as the door shut. Behind her, inside, the air was warmer. She looked around with wide eyes. The walls were lined with tools, weapons, and strange glowing screens that showed blinking lights. She hid behind a stack of metal boxes, peeking out nervously. The human moved about the room with ease, hanging his gear, checking devices. He seemed used to living here. "Don't be afraid," he said, noticing her hiding. "This place is safe." But she pressed herself deeper into the shadows. Her mind spun with thoughts. Safe? In a human den? Impossible. Yet when a sudden roar echoed outside, she screamed and clutched the box tighter. The human glanced at the door but did not look worried. Instead, he came closer, not to grab her, but to kneel nearby. "You're all right," he said gently. "They can't get in." Her claws dug into the blanket she still carried. Her fear made her small voice shake. "If they can't get in, then you will," she whispered. Her eyes filled with tears again. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then the human reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of candy wrapped in shiny paper. He placed it on the floor near her and stepped back. "This is all I'll give you," he said. "Nothing more." She blinked, staring at the candy as if it were a jewel. Slowly she crawled forward and touched it. Her reflection shimmered on the shiny surface. She looked up at him confused. Why give her such a sweet thing when he asked for nothing? The human turned back to his work, leaving her alone with her thoughts. She sat there, hugging the blanket, the candy in her hands. Her fear was still strong, but something else was growing inside her too, something she didn't know how to name. For the first time, the alien girl wondered if maybe, just maybe, the stories about humans were not the whole truth. The alien girl woke to the smell of fire and food. Her eyes blinked open, and for a moment she forgot where she was. The blanket was still wrapped around her, warm against her thin body. Then she saw him, the human, sitting by a small fire, cooking something in a pan. Her heart jumped in fear. She remembered the stories, remembered her cries from the night before. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself, whispering under her breath, "Please, don't devour me." The human glanced at her, but instead of sharp teeth and cruel laughter, he only smiled faintly. "Morning," he said in a calm voice. "You must be hungry again." He lifted the pan, showing her a piece of roasted meat. The smell made her stomach roar, but her fear kept her frozen. He placed the meat carefully on a flat stone near her, then leaned back, keeping his distance. "Eat if you want," he said. "If not, that's your choice." The girl stared at the food like it was a trap. Her glowing eyes narrowed. Her claws twitched nervously. She thought maybe this was the moment, maybe the bread and water were only to soften her before the true test. Her stomach growled again, louder this time. Her little hands pressed against her belly. She whispered, "If I eat, you will take me, won't you?" The human shook his head slowly. "I won't take you," he said. "I won't hurt you." Minutes passed. Her fear and hunger fought inside her. At last she crawled forward on shaking knees. Her tiny fingers reached out, snatched the meat, and pulled it close. She sniffed it first, her nose twitching. Then she took a tiny bite. Her eyes widened. It was soft and warm, flavored with herbs she did not know. Her mouth watered. She chewed faster, another bite, then another. Soon she was eating like she had never eaten before, her cheeks full, her eyes wet with tears. The human watched her quietly, not moving. When she finished, she locked her fingers, embarrassed when she realized he was still looking. She turned her face away, whispering, "It was good." He gave a small smile. "Glad you liked it," he said. "There's more if you want." Her heart thudded. Confusion filled her. If humans were monsters, why did this one feed her again? Why did he give her warmth and food without asking for anything? She bit her lip, her tiny body still shaking. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why are you doing this?" The human looked into the fire for a long moment before answering. "Because you needed help," he said. "Because no one should starve, not even you." The girl hugged the blanket closer. Her chest felt strange. A part of her still feared him, but another part felt something she had not felt in a long time. "Hope," she whispered. "You are strange for a human." He chuckled softly, the sound low and gentle. "Maybe," he said, "or maybe your stories about us are wrong." Her eyes dropped to the fire. His words echoed in her mind. Could it be true? Could the stories be lies? Her people told her that humans were devourers, destroyers, yet this one gave her life instead of death. The fire crackled, warming them both. The girl finally allowed herself to relax a little. Her eyes grew heavy again, not from fear, but from food and warmth. As she drifted to sleep once more, her last thought was simple. Maybe not all humans were monsters. The tiny alien girl sat with the piece of bread clutched tightly in her small hands. Her glowing eyes stayed on the human, waiting for the trick to come. She thought at any moment he would bare his sharp teeth and swallow her whole, but instead he just sat there quietly, watching the stars above them. Her voice trembled as she finally whispered, "Please, please don't devour me." The words broke from her chest like a painful cry. She had begged before when raiders attacked her village, but no one listened. Now she begged again, her voice shaking as tears slipped down her face. The human turned his head slowly. His eyes softened at the sight of her shaking. "I won't devour you," he said. His voice was low but calm. "Why would you think that?" The alien girl hugged her knees. Her thin body looked even smaller in the torchlight. "Because that's what humans do," she said. "You eat little ones like me. You burn villages. You take everything." Her words were broken but filled with the terror of old stories. The human let out a slow breath. His face was unreadable. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small flask of water. Placing it gently on the ground, he pushed it toward her. "Drink," he said. Her eyes narrowed with suspicion. She thought maybe the water was poison. Maybe it would end her faster than his teeth. But her throat was so dry, burning like fire. She stared at him, waiting for the trick. Yet he only leaned back, giving her space. Slowly, with shaking fingers, she took the flask and raised it to her lips. The cool water touched her tongue and her eyes widened again. It was real, pure, not poison. She drank greedily, drops spilling down her chin, and for the first time in days, she felt alive. When she stopped, she gasped for air, her chest rising and falling quickly. Her voice was still weak, but she whispered again, "Why? Why are you feeding me? What do you want from me?" The human tilted his head, his gaze calm. "I don't want anything from you," he said. "You looked hungry, so I gave you food. You looked thirsty, so I gave you water, that's all." The alien girl's lips trembled. She could not believe his words. Nothing was ever given for free, not in her world. She crawled back a little, shaking her head. "No, no one helps without a reason. You will ask for something. You will take something from me." The human studied her for a long moment. His eyes were serious but not cruel. Finally he said, "If I wanted to hurt you, I already could have, but I didn't. Think about that." Her heart pounded, her mind raced. His words made sense, but fear still wrapped around her like chains. She sniffled, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "Please, if you will take me, make it fast," she begged. Her small voice cracked in the silence. The human's brows furrowed. His voice grew firmer. "I told you, I won't hurt you." His hand moved slowly to pull a blanket from his pack. He placed it near her but did not force it on her. "Rest," he said. "You are safe here." The alien girl stared at the blanket, her body trembling from cold and exhaustion, her stomach full for the first time in days. She hesitated, then pulled the blanket around her shoulders. The warmth made her eyes heavy. Her fear was still there, but sleep was stronger. As she closed her glowing eyes, her last thought was strange. If humans were monsters, why did this one make her feel safe enough to sleep? The night was dark and silent, broken only by the sound of metal creaking in the ruined cargo yard. A tiny alien girl hid inside a broken crate, her small body trembling like a leaf in the cold wind. Her large glowing eyes darted left and right, afraid that the humans would find her. She pressed her little hands to her mouth to stop her sobs from escaping. Her people always told stories about humans. They said humans were monsters, tall and cruel, with teeth sharp enough to eat little aliens like her. The girl believed every word, so when she saw a shadow moving across the crates, her heart almost stopped beating. Heavy boots echoed on the ground, slow and steady. Each step grew louder, closer, and her fear grew heavier. She curled herself tighter inside the crate, whispering to herself, "Please don't find me. Please don't devour me." But the light of a torch swept across the dark, and suddenly the shadow loomed over her hiding spot. The wooden crate creaked as the lid was pulled away, and there he stood, a tall human, broad shoulders, rough hands, and eyes that looked too sharp for comfort. The tiny alien gasped and fell backward. Her small claws scraped the ground as she tried to crawl away. "Please don't devour me," she cried out, her voice breaking like glass. The human froze, his expression changing from surprise to confusion. He lowered his torchlight and raised his empty hand as if trying to calm her. "Hey, I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly, but his deep voice sounded like thunder to her ears. The girl shook her head wildly. Her people's stories echoed in her mind. Humans trick you, they feed you before they eat you. Her chest rose and fell quickly, fear choking her throat. The human crouched down slowly, making himself smaller so he would not look so terrifying. His eyes softened as he looked at her, and he placed something on the ground between and them. A piece of food, warm bread wrapped in cloth. The smell drifted into her nose. Her stomach growled, but her fear screamed louder. She pressed her back against the crate, staring at the bread as if it might explode. "It's food," the human whispered. "You're hungry, aren't you?" His words were calm, but she did not move. Minutes passed, the silence heavy between them. Her stomach betrayed her with another loud growl. Her hands shook, her lips trembled. Slowly she crawled a little closer, her glowing eyes fixed on the bread. She snatched it quickly, as if afraid he would grab her, and then retreated back into the shadows. She sniffed it, expecting poison, but when she bit into it, her eyes widened. It was soft, warm, and tasted nothing like death. Tears welled up in her eyes. The bread was simple, but to her it felt like life. The human gave a small smile when he saw her eat. He did not move closer. He simply sat on the ground, leaving space between them. "See? Not poison," he said gently. The alien girl stared at him, her mouth still chewing. Her fear was still there, heavy in her chest, but something else was growing too. Confusion. If humans were monsters, why did this one give her food instead of harm? The night wind blew cold again, but for the first time, she felt a little warmth, not from the bread, but from the strange human who didn't act like the monster she had always imagined.